for the very famous American archaeologist, Dr. Jerome Jacobson, who specialized in Indian prehistory, passed away on 21st August 2020 at the age of 90. And therefore, this online condolence meeting is scheduled on the behalf of Deccan College to pay the homage to him. As far as his connection to Deccan College is concerned, Professor H.D. Sanklia was his co-supervisor for his thesis. Apart from this, so many prehistorians and archaeologists, they were colleague of Dr. Jacobson, and he used to frequently used to visit a Deccan College, and he is having very familiar with the Deccan College and other institutes in India. Dr. Jacobson subsequently he studied rock art sites in Madhya Pradesh. His most important contribution to Indian prehistory concerned the discovery of a series of open-air primary Acheulean culture sites in Raisen district of Madhya Pradesh in 1970s. This is one of the earliest research project which was initiated, settlement pattern studies in Indian prehistory, and inspired several later workers. Dr. Jacobson maintained close contact with his colleague in India till last his days. In the Raisen district of Madhya Pradesh, Jerome Jacobson located 94 Acheulean surface sites within an intensively surveyed an area of 175 square kilometer and lying almost exclusively in a plateau plain, some near present stream channels, some on open plains away from the present stream, and some about 10% of the total number cluster at the base of the local hills. My intention behind to give this information is Dr. Jacobson, he was given lot of priority or lot of what I mean key importance to the landscape, how the landscape and rock type they are important to understand the prehistoric site in the particular area. So he was explored the lot of regions of Madhya Pradesh, that is the Vindhyan formations, northern part of Narmada, and he published so many things. Very excellent work is carried out in this region. So I'll just give this much information because I am very junior and I have not met Dr. Jacobson. That is my very bad luck. But being a very senior person in the field of prehistory and who has carried out very good groundwork in the Vindhyan area as far as the Mesolithic sites are concerned. That's all. And whatever may be the relation of Dr. Jacobson with the Deccan College family and different workers in the Deccan College, Dr. K. Padaya, Professor K. Padaya, he will explain very extensively here. Now I request Dr. K. Padaya sir to say a few words about Dr. Jacobson.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Late good afternoon to all of you. I'm happy that all of you have joined us as part of this homage being paid to Dr. Jacobson from Deccan College. And I would like to share some observations about him and his work with all of you, particularly the younger scholars, because most of the younger scholars, they may be reading about his work, but probably they may not have had any chance to interact with him. And I can claim that I am one of the persons from technical colleges, of course. Professor Sankalia was there, Professor Mishra was there, Professor Davlikar was there, and others were there. But I also had the rare honor of not only meeting him, but extensively interacting with him about the whats and wheres and whys of Indian prehistory. And I must say that in many ways I benefited from his experiences with Indian prehistory, in particular Indian archaeology in general, and he and his wife Doran Jacobson, they truly loved India. So I think this is something which is very important to remember these days, because even in academics, a lot of business has entered, and it is here, it is here that that we must, in particular, remember the presence of both Dr. Jerome Jacobson and his wife, who happily is still with us, and their experiences with India and their love and affection towards India and Indian people, and the kind of diversity which we have in India. Now, one sad thing from my side, I personally believe that Indian archaeology is becoming poorer and poorer year by year, probably for various reasons. And I particularly feel sorry for Indian priests in the widest sense, including proto-history, because during the last decade, I think we have lost really towering figures who contributed so immensely and so significantly towards the advancement of Indian prehistoric studies. We lost Professor V.N. Misra, we lost Professor M.L.K. Murthy, and we lost Professor M.K. Dhawlikar. Some years ago, we lost Ashok Datta from Calcutta, then Subrato Chakravarti, and others. And most recently, from BHU, this key figure, Professor Purushottam Singh. And these days, condolence meetings have become rather uncommon in the technical college. So I take this opportunity of paying homage on my behalf, on behalf of all faculty and students of the College Department of Archaeology, to all these departed souls. And coming to Dr. Jacobson himself, I think here is a person who is very humble, is very tall also, if you have seen some of his pictures, I've met him. Certainly, of course, Professor Anjana Ray had interaction with him. She stayed with them. Professor D.P. Agarwal had interaction with him, stayed with him in America. Vota, of course, had interaction with him, and probably several others. Very tall, very affable, very amiable persons, both of them. And he completed his graduate degree from City College of City University of New York. Columbia University is also there in New York. And I think it was there during those graduate days, he met Doran, and a very beautiful lady. I saw one of their early pictures. They were participating in a morcha, which the youngsters led to White House in Washington, asking for rights of rights of yeah, uh, rights of younger people, and for their, jobs. And and then completed his graduate degree at the City College, and he was advised by this famous uh, archaeologist, Professor Ralph Solecki, who excavated that famous cave of Shanidar in Iraq. And he was advised by Solecki to think of choosing India for his doctoral research in prehistory, because Professor Ralph Solecki had good understanding of South Asian prehistory. He certainly had interactions with Professor Sankalia. So he directed uh, Jerome. His popular name is Jerry. So I think here, of course, we use this nickname Jerry. He directed Jerry to go to India, meet Sankalia, and that's how his doctoral research started. Professor Solaki was his main guide. Professor Sankalia was his co-guide for his doctoral research, and he selected the Vindhyan Hills, the Raisen area, not very far from Bhopal town, and part of the Vindhyan ranges, partly plains, partly seeing hills and hillocks, and with lots of rock shelters. All of and this Bhimbedka complex of caves is very much located in the same area. He selected this, and from 1964, and Doran accompanied him as his wife, and they did extensive, very intensive field studies, going up and down the hills and walking every inch. And that is how he was able to discover in the district of Raisen and neighboring Sehoy district something like some 70 or 75 storage sites, some in the rock shelters, some in the plains, mostly belonging to the Mesolithic, but then also some Acheulean sites, some Middle Paleolithic sites. But his thesis, Mesolithic culture context in the Vindhyan Hills, is basically devoted to examination of what is it?
Okay.
Uh, Mesolithic sites, and it's not just the discovery of a number of sites through intensive surveys, but actually looking at the context in which they occur. See, they occur in the rock shelters, they occur in the foothills, they occur in the plains down below, and close to streams, close to nalas, and etc. etc. See, because as I would like to tell you, he really wanted to give an anthropological orientation to, his Stone Age discoveries. Generally, we discover a lot of sites, do typology and describe them, and regolith context, this and that. But we, tend to ignore the larger goals of prehistoric studies, that is the reconstruction of life phase, or as New York says, processual approach. See, it was this kind of approach which he had, and I don't know how many of you had a chance to look at his thesis. It runs to something like 500 pages nearly, and it is here. He is looking at these so-called Mesolithic sites, not all of them forming part of a regular phase, preceding the Neolithic, Chalcolithic, but he is looking at the various permutations and combinations. I think this is something which most of us in Indian prehistory have not realized. We think when you see Middle Paleolithic sites, oh, so probably these came after Acheulean, these preceded the Upper Paleolithic, then Mesolithic sites. So all of them date to the pre-Neolithic, Chalcolithic stage. See, he was not of that kind. He provided for various permutations, combinations. He looked at the distribution. He said some of these Mesolithic tool assemblages found in the caves, rock shelters in the Vindhyan Hills were not necessarily of the Mesolithic. Probably these were the assemblages left behind by the Chalcolithic groups who were occupying the plains. So they visited these hills probably as part of their hunting expeditions, and they left them. So we tend to think these are all Mesolithic. This is one permutation. And then he said there could be some of these Mesolithic assemblages which are found in the hills, but not necessarily belonging to the Pre-Neolithic. They may as well again be of, the Neolithic Chalcolithic. There is no Neolithic in Central India, but the Chalcolithic stage. See, like this, I think, see, this is an eye-opening approach which we have not always, kept in mind. See, we think that with the Acheulean, you see, curtain came down and then Middle Paleolithic started. You see, we have to provide for various kinds of continuities, discontinuities, and as far as my knowledge goes, this is the first major attempt, in Indian prehistoric studies to look at the cultural assemblages, not in terms of island cut island like cultural phases, but in terms of continuities and discontinuities, and then of course this is also describes a bit of rock art. In that case, we have some rock art, but that was not his main emphasis. And then of course he deals with a bit of ethnography, particularly the Savara tribes. There are bones also, but he found out that these bones came to that area much later, some 400-500 years ago. But probably the Savara groups were there and one or two other groups. So he did supplement his main archaeological researches with ethnographic, documentation. And what is important is, Doran was with him during his field work probably 2-3 seasons, not in 1 year. And Doran was helping him in his field surveys, and probably they were sometimes residing in one or two of the villages, so that they could do their food surveys, in a more systematic way, rather than staying in some five-star hotel in Bhopal and taking a car and every day coming. See, that would have meant a lot of not only money but a lot of time wastage. But they were, and it was in this context I think they developed real liking for India, particularly rural sector of India. They became friends with local people. I think they thoroughly enjoyed. See, from whatever descriptions they give, they thoroughly enjoyed their visits there, their stays there, and interactions with the people. And Doran, apart from helping him, did her own ethnography. This is not known. See, she did a doctoral thesis on masks worn by both Hindus and Muslims. See, Muslims, of course, have this parda, but particularly in Central India, even the Hindu women also cover their faces. You see. So she did a thesis. I have not seen it, but I have come across reference to this thesis. She did a thesis, and both of them submitted their PhD dissertations. Jerry on his Mesolithic site context in the Indian hills, and Doran on face masks of that area worn by both Hindus and Muslims to the Department of Anthropology of Columbia University, where Ralph Solecki was the leading pre-students. Both of them got their degrees. And that was the beginning of their interaction with India, Indian prehistory, and Indian ethnography. And then, as part of this recent area prehistoric studies, as I said earlier, Jerry also found a limited number of Acheulean sites and even Middle Paleolithic sites. So it is this which he wanted to pursue further, and he came back to India at least 2 or 3 seasons, probably 1972 and 73, and now he concentrated on the Acheulean sites, and particularly in the plains. I mean, overlooking the hills and hillocks, and in an area of something like nearly 200 square kilometers, he found as many as nearly 100 open air sites. Now, this is a big change in Indian prehistory. till then, Indian priestry was bogged down to, as Jerry used to, as he said in words, clear words, a kind of bogged down to a kind of geological approach, this, stratigraphical culture sequence approach. And he located these sites through intensive foot survey, which was not the real norm in those days. And he also, he tried to understand the distribution pattern of the sites, see, and it's on record that he published two major papers, one in the Transactions of the American Philosophical Society. I don't know how many of you have seen. It's a major paper, and altogether some 12,000 assemblages. Probably these assemblages are part of the priestly branch. If my presumption is correct, you have to verify. I don't think he took them to America, nor was he allowed to do so. Yeah. See, anyway, see, not only he discovered these, he tried to called settlement patterns. See, he was already doing this, and in fact, it is here we also have, see, the open air primary sites located close to streams, close to the foothills, located small nalas, and very little deposit. See, probably there was some deposit, but because of continuous rain action and agricultural practices, many of them came to surface. During recent decades or even centuries. So which means that there could be some sites which are still underneath, which are covered by, as the site of Tikoda, which Ota and Sushma they excavated shows. See that, try to understand the distribution pattern, settlement pattern, see how these are located, and even propose this idea of probably, see, these were part of a kind of seasonal movement of the children groups. Probably these plain sites were occupied during the wet season when water was easily available, streams, nalas were flowing, and small fauna was available, and probably a variety of wild plant foods. The Central Indian area, you see, is part of deciduous vegetation, good rainfall, and as you know that it houses a variety of wild plant foods. See, and probably when the rains were too harsh, maybe, you see, they were retreating to the caves, rock shelters in the neighboring hills like Bhimbetka Grove, and so even propose this idea of seasonal mobility. Now, this is something which was not there at all. Nobody, you see, we were all happy, looking at river sections, gravel 1, gravel 2, silt 1, and the culture sequence and typology, these flakes, size scrapers, head scrapers, and we're all stopping there. There's nothing beyond. That's how Wheeler called the first two chapters of his book, Linear in Pakistan, Stones and More Stones. See, but Jerry was one of those persons who really tried to go beyond this. And we must remember here two or three other persons who, a little before or just around the same time, were also discovering primary sites away from major rivers. No, these recent sites are something like 50 kilometers away from Narmada River. See, and this Rameshwar Singh, in the later part of 50s, completed a beautiful thesis. He found this, that Jhansi area. I forget the name of that, Lalitpur complex of sites. These are beautiful, primary sites, open-air primary sites. And a little later, Professor M.L. Kumurthy found primary sites of Acheulean, Middle Paleolithic, and of course Upper Paleolithic in the Renugunta area. You see, and around the same time, in the early 60s, when Jacobson was busy with the Mesolithic sites, Gudrun Quarunas was finding primary sites of the Acheulean, and she even excavated Chirki on Nevasa, Chirki on Pravara site, as some of you know. I think, unfortunately, these pioneering contributions made by these scholars have not been highlighted to the extent they really deserve to be. And I hope some of our actors, will try to fill up this gap. See, and any progress in Indian prehistory in the largest sense could come only when we remember what has been done and what their positive aspects and what also are their shortcomings, and then only we can achieve. So we always, this old saying goes, we always build upon what we already have, what we already are. See, so let's not forget these contributions. So this is what, and then. As I said, these recent value student sites about them, he published 2, 3 good papers. The major paper was in the Transactions of the Philosophical Society of America, from Philadelphia. See, a beautiful paper, you see. And in fact, what I want to say, this work, and when he was doing this work, he used to come to the college and we used to have interactions, Professor Mishra, Professor Murthy, of course, I was also there. And in fact, in a way, this bug of primary sites away from major rivers and finding them and identifying them and understanding their patterns, landscape patterns. In a way, this bug of primary sites, I was bitten by this bug partly because of the pioneering work of Jacobson. So here I have a personal homage to pay to him, and it deserves credit. See, and what is important. He completed his PhD. He got a job. He was on the faculty of the college from where he graduated, City College of the City University of New York, not Columbia University, which is also there in New York. But he got his doctorate from Columbia University, also Doran Jacobson, and I think till about 1980 he was there on the faculty, and he was sometimes coming to India. I remember distinctly that he was very much in India, very much with us at the Deccan College in 1978, when Professor Mishra organized the first international conference dealing with prehistoric archaeology, Indo-Pacific Research Association, and that was in December 1978. And Jerry was, of course, very much there, you see, and he presented a paper on his race and student discoveries, and which was published. That proceedings of that symposium or conference took a little time, but Professor Mishra and Professor Bellwood brought out that volume in 1985. So in that volume, you will see a very nice article, a summary article, done by Jerry about his race and Asian discoveries. And we know that this race area, thanks to the interest created by Jerry, Prehistory branch of Archaeological Survey took to the field, and they found some more sites. And I think as part of this work, this site of Tikoda was found very close to the sites found by Jerry. And this Tikoda, as some of you know, or all of you know, was excavated by Oda and Sushma Dev for 3-4 years, and it has given very good results. I think the inspiration for this work of ASI later on excavations came from the initial discoveries of Jerry in the Raisel area. So this is so. Otherwise, I think his interaction with India in the field sense was becoming less and less. But what is important, he was interacting with Indians and Indian workers, and I think some of our colleagues, from America, whenever they happened to be there, they were contacting him, and I have been told by our senior colleagues like Professor Ranjanare and Professor D.P. Agarwal that they had, the honor of having the hospitality of Doran and Jerry in their home. See, and from 1980 till 2002, Jerry got another job. We got another job. Now this is something very unique, which the like of which unfortunately we don't have. Actually, there is tremendous scope for these kind of jobs. You see, what was he? He was the chief of the cultural resources preservation, forming part of the transportation department, like our highways department of Nitin Gadkari. Can you imagine that these transportation departments of each and every state in the US, probably in Canada too, has a wing, devoted to study of cultural resources, because when these highways are being laid, see some kind of cultural heritage or the other, it is some, Red Indian sites or, cemeteries or habitation sites or, artifacts or whatever, you see. Once, they are noticed, then, the highways department has to stop the work. And see, there is government legislation, and some of us in India, right from Romila Thapar, have been fighting with the government of India to introduce legislation along these lines. But unfortunately, this has not happened. See, and the result, lots of sites, knowingly or unknowingly, are being erased out of existence. They could be prehistoric sites, they could be historical sites, proto-historic sites, but in America it is otherwise, probably in some of the other European countries too. And he was in charge of the cultural wing, cultural resources preservation wing of transportation department of the state of Illinois, somewhere in the middle part of America. See, Chicago is also located in Illinois, and probably his headquarters was at Springfield, if my presumption is correct. And he was in that position, and lot of, cultural resource management archaeology was done by him and by his staff, and number of excavations, number of explorations, and probably he has several publications arising from this work. And see, so about this I am not very. I asked Doran to give me some information. Probably she and and he retired from that job in 2002. This is what I learned from Doran. She responded to my condolence message. See, this is how we see. But what is important, whether he was in New York, whether he was in university, whether he was in charge of the cultural resources wing of transport department, he was always, he and Doran, they were always in touch with Indian archaeology and Indians and Indian culture. They did, see, their visits to India, their interactions with Indian culture, with Indian people, and Indian archaeological sites. And there are two major publications which Jerry produced after after his recent work. These are not exactly based on his field work, but these are excellent reviews. And some of you would have seen this series called Annual Reviews in Anthropology. See? And they publish periodic reviews in different branches of archaeology. And Jerry was asked to give an account of recent developments in Indian in South Asian recent developments in South Asian prehistory, proto-history. And he published a beautiful piece, beautiful essay, a comprehensive essay running to more than 20 pages, listing some, 225 references. See, and we gave an excellent survey of the major developments in Indian prehistory, proto-history, touching upon the lower Paleolithic, touching upon the middle Paleolithic, touching upon the upper Paleolithic. Upper Paleolithic already became a recognized entity, and then Mesolithic, and then of course Neolithic, Chalcolithic, the Indus, and then the Iron Age. And equally important, he also briefly reviewed the kind of methods and theories that were applied in the initial stages of Indian prehistory, protohistory, and the kind of changes that were coming, the kind of changes in theory and method which were coming and which were very, very important. And it is here, I mean, see, in fact, if you have read or if you are going to read that essay, you will see, it starts with a kind of a critique of a statement made by Professor Sankaria in his book PPIP, 1974, that he said, in many ways, Indian prehistory is what European prehistory was in 1860, But I think Vijay did not take kindly to this critical remark. On the other hand, I mean, he said this is not exactly true. In fact, Indian prehistory is prehistory, proto-history. They are changing their colors. They are, see, I mean, receiving new colors and new developments are coming, new theoretical frameworks, new methodologies, and see, and of course, he said there are some gaps which need to be filled up. So, if you want to know what Indian prehistory, proto-history uh, were up to, uh, let's say, this was published in 1979, were up to 1980. I think this is the best source, see, with lots of references. As I said, some 225 references. Just you see, one can imagine the kind of, bibliographic work, you see, which Jerry had to putting up this beautiful comprehensive essay. And then he produced in 1986 another volume. Now this deals with entire archaeology of South Asia. This is an edited volume. It's called Studies in the Archaeology of India and Pakistan. See, now this was published purposely, intentionally in India. Oxford University Press in collaboration with the American Institute of Indian Studies. It appeared in print in 1986. And what was the background for this? Jerry was busy with his work in the transportation department, but then so he got a kind of brief from the headquarters of the American Institute of Indian Studies that can you just organize a kind of effort, which will highlight the contributions made by American archaeologists to the development of Indian archaeology. So, what he did not organize any conference or seminar. On the other hand, he contacted 12 leading archaeologists, mostly American, and he, he was able to extract from them, comprehensive essays dealing with various aspects of Indian archaeology. And these scholars include seniors like Desmond Clark, Dr. Fraser Lewis, Dale, Richard Davis, and Louis Flum, and these are very comprehensive essays. So he got them, edited them, and he published them in India. See, purposely in India, so that Indian scholars would be able to get hold of them very easily. And this is, I think, a major publication in the development of Indian archaeology. So it shows equally that Jerry's interest in India and Indian archaeology did not cease with the recent area. And as I actually I did not realize that he was still there, but then now this is some other that was my misfortune that I could not interact with him in his later years. But we are very happy that persons like Rajanare and D.P. Agarwal and certainly Dr. Vota and probably others, were in touch with him. And Vota tells me through his emails that he was, corresponding with him probably by email and also telephone. He was always inquiring about India, Indian archaeology, and Indian workers. And see, so his interest in India did not cease with his work in the basic area. This is, I think, something very important because I'm not being critical, but I think it is a fact that lots of these workers who are coming to India from outside, from Europe or whatever, you see, North America, I think these visits, the work is seen more like business, you see, and once you publish some paper, there ends, you see, there is no attachment left. But I think Jerry and Duran, you see, they belong to a totally different gene. And I think it is here, I would like to recall the beautiful remark which Walter Fairservice made in the very opening pages of his famous book, The Roots of Ancient India. He says he was actually sort of, reprimanding his younger colleagues in America who had interest in Indian studies, Indian archaeology. He says, that most of us, have gone there as tourists and more for seeing than for understanding. And we are not, more or less, I'm quoting his words, most of us have failed to realize that we are dealing with a situation, a cultural situation, which is still living, which is still vital, which is of great importance in modern times. And if you ask me, ask me to cite some instances contrary to this rather indicative statement of Walter Fairservice, I think Jerry and Doron certainly belong to this limited category. So I think they had tremendous love to India, Indian people, Indian culture, and they, Jerry and Doran, they literally and truly fulfilled the main goal of anthropological studies in the largest sense. What is this goal? The largest sense. Anthropological studies, the largest sense include historical studies, sociological studies, archaeological studies, everything. What is the ultimately to understand, the diversity which is there in the humankind and the culture of the humankind and cultural and ethnic diversity to appreciate, to identify this diversity, to appreciate how this has come about. And it is here Jerry and even Professor Dolega, Professor Sankali, of course, we were the master behind, and the Professor Dolega, they really understood, see, that this is the larger goal. And once you lose track of this larger goal, you will never get into a context of demeaning other cultures, other peoples, other ethnic groups, other religious faiths. I think this is the larger goal of anthropological studies. Jerry and Doran, truly came up to this, they fulfilled this goal in entirety. I think it is here we would like to pay homage to the departed soul, and of course pay our regard to Doran, who is happily with us. And in the preface to his thesis, Jerry, see, because he was staying in that area for a long time and interacted with rural people, and probably he picked up, he and Doran picked up some Hindi, and he says, one statement, you see, picked up a bit of Hindi. He says, "मैंने आपको बहुत तकलीफ दिया." I think what we can tell him today, now that he is not there, see, I would like to I hope you will not mind my poor Hindi, but I would like to say, Jerry, आपने Indian archaeology को बहुत योगदान दिया. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Padya sir. Seriously, it was such wonderful things to hear about his association with Deccan College and how much he has contributed. So I think SB Ota sir wanted to say something, wanted to say a few words. So Ota sir, if you're there, then yes, sir, please.
We are happy today that in one sense, Doran Jacobson is with us, and their son, Josh Jacobson is with us, both of them. They are already connected with us. Good evening, ma'am. And I was in fact in touch with Jerry for last 1.5 years or so. And I was regularly corresponding with him. The moment he learned that I'm working in the same area, he was quite happy. He was quite happy, thrilled. And he started asking me his old days. And I remember another very beautiful thing. As Professor Padaya said, they loved India. In fact, they loved India. After their departure, they kept on coming to India. And they are going there to the Raisen and staying in a village called Khandera for a couple of days. Still their friends are there. One Mr. Khan, their children, they are there. And Madam must be remembering, Madam Doran, that she told me that she is coming in coming December. She is planning to come to Khandera village. Now, Jerry was constantly asking me how much work has been done in India. And she kept on asking. I used to send the articles. And he was very remembering Professor Padaya, Professor Misra, and D.P. Agrawal. I told him the present position. And he was telling, his mentor was Professor Sankalia, Indian mentor. But he had a very high respect for another person, his Professor Wakankar. Since his thesis was on rock paintings, he has a very high regard. And another good thing, literally, he was knowing every archaeologist working in Indian prehistory and protohistory, placed in the different universities then, and takes everyone's name and how he was connected. He writes in his thesis in the long acknowledgement. And he had a very good touch even in Archaeological Survey of India officers, that he writes. And if I look at his contributions, Professor Padaya has already said, but one, as he said, it's a very early work. Because he was asking me, can you tell me who has referred my things exhaustively in India? Then I took one named Professor Padaya's this new research design, which is published in World Archaeology. And the other one is a review article on site formation, which was by Petraglia. Has extremely referred, because if I evaluate Jacobson's work, recognizing the primary, secondary sites, going to the hinterland, walking there, looking for the sites, and he had very good knowledge on site formation. And that's one of the very early work in India. And that he has, Petraglia very elaborately writes on Jacobson's contribution on site formation in his article. And another thing, his excavations in the rock shelters is one of the earliest excavations of rock shelters. That was the time subsequent to that was excavated this Bhimbetka. But there are very few sites where excavated all over the country, very minor, but he excavated more than 7 to 8 shelters. As Padaya said, is a beautifully interpreted it. And some of the things he says even goes back to even historical times. That's a very interesting. He was quite open. He was not at all biased. And he continued his writing, probably the last writing at that Indo-Pacific Free Historic Association. Subsequent to that, we do not see any articles except 1 or 2 review and all that. But he was coming to India. Most of us we are not knowing. Madam will confirm. And both of them are coming and staying in Khandera village. And the family where they stayed, their children, they still remember, I interacted with them, they still remember, we have heard from our father that come and all that. They come. And that was the time how he was investigating. I wanted to know. I started talking to some of the villagers and all that. The route he followed, he writes in his thesis, because that was the time when this area was thickly forested. Even wild animals were there. Even today, if I can say that there are leopards, and just 50 years back, in spite of that, he explored that area, as Padya said, that literally walked. That is what helped him, and he could locate several sites. And in fact, I told him that I want to review you, because that was the time when probably new archaeology had its beginning and all those things. And his writings, if you see, each of these new archaeology concepts were very much embedded in that. That's a very interesting thing. And I have requested Madam that I want to particularly write something on him, and I was corresponding with the Jerry that if you have got the field notes and old photographs, those archival photographs going back to 50, 60 years, and Madam is still trying for that, if she can locate. And as Padya said, that very few of us, I have not seen him, but I know him through his works only, and excellent works. And if I compare the works of that contemporary period, probably he was ahead of his time. So with these words, I pay my homage, and thank you, Madam, and thanks, Jose Jacobson, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Ota sir. Would Ranjana ma'am want to say a few words? Ranjana ma'am, would you like to say a few words? Maybe Mrs. Jacobson, ma'am, would you like to say a few words? Mrs. Jacobson
Hello?
is with us. Yes, ma'am. Ranjana ma'am.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please.
I don't have to say much, because most of his Jerry's work had been described in detail by Professor Pataya and Ota. Only thing I can say that I always considered them a very good friend of mine. Not really of the academic, but also maybe in the personal level. I had met them, I think in 19. Doreen will be able to say whether it was 67 or 1968 that in Hawaii, while I was studying there, I met them. And then onward, we had continued to have contact. And they were such a warm person. I stayed with them for a few days. And it was really very interesting things, not the touristic things that Jerry had shown me, where to get the topographic sheet. If I needed any, I could only write to him and can get one, because I was also doing my active field work in those days. And then it was very interesting, that type of work, that because I'm an anthropologist basically. So the kind of work that Doreen was doing was really interesting. And that time her writing in National Geography had come up on the Partha system. And in my later part of my working career, I had also been very much active in women's studies. So I always remembered her. We had a very regular communication in the earlier days, but slowly it has, diminished. And I was really shocked when I got the mail from Pataya, Professor Pataya, and the Ota's mail was forwarded to me. I was really shocked, and I didn't realize that so many years have gone by and Jerry had become 90. And that was really a shocking thing because, we take for granted that people will be there, which is really shocking when you find that out. So I'm really happy that I could be here, listen to all his work in detail, especially from Professor Padhaya, who had seen him working, and we have all the prehistorians are very much benefited for the kind of work that he had started. We always refer to his work. I even have the books that he had written, and some he gave also to me. And my condolence to Doreen and to Josh and to Laurie. Laurie is not here. I find Josh was there. And to all my fraternity who have lost a great man.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Now, may I request Mrs. Jacobson, ma'am, if you are there with us, we would like to hear a few words from you, your memories of him in association to India, whatever you would like to say.
Hi, this is Josh Jacobson,
Yes.
Jerry's son. I think my mom is having some trouble joining the audio. So
Okay.
on her behalf, if I may say a few words.
Yes, Josh, please.
Oh, so thank you all for this very meaningful get together meeting. As his son, obviously, I was born in 1975, so I was not there during most of his work, but I did live in India for a few months when I was 3 in Kandera, and so my memories of India are very fond, and we have had close relationships with folks from the village and from India over the years that have flourished. So to have these cultures come together and blossom over the years is really been something wonderful for me personally. And the other part is, seeing that my father's work was not only meaningful to him at the time, but also continues to be useful for others. It's really something to be inspired by. To know that if you work hard on something and you do quality work and you connect with people and you do your best, that other people might be able to carry on and build on what you've done. So for me to hear these words is really something inspiring for my own life, and I want to just thank everyone for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for sharing these lovely words. Sabli sir, would you like to? Is there anyone else who would like to pay homage to?
Korisetter sir is here. Korisetter sir, you request.
Korisetter sir, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. We have now learned so much about Dr. Jacobson's work. By the time I came for my post-graduation at Deccan College, he had already completed his research and PhD and so on. And occasionally, I used to see him visiting Deccan College, and a couple of times I briefly met him in Dr. Mishra's room. And then we were very familiar with his work and got to know him more closely during that Indo-Pacific prehistory session at Deccan College in 1978. And subsequently, as Professor Padhaya was mentioning, these very three important publications of Jacobson were very, very effective on my learning of archaeology and archaeological methods and so on. His review of, published in annual reviews of anthropology was an eye-opener. Although I was a student of archaeology and I was familiar with the developments in the field of theory and method, his article specifically mentioned that the absence of application of anthropological theory in Indian prehistory. And that actually really made a big impact on me. And then, of course, I did not have opportunities to work in that particular area of theoretical archaeology and apply new archaeological methods in my own research work and so on. But yet that article was very, very important. And later, I also was familiar with his edited volume along with Greg Poschel, which was published by the American Institute of Indian Studies and Oxford University Press. And his 1985 article published in the Proceedings of the Indo-Pacific Prehistory Association proceedings was even more important for me, because that gave me clues for looking at the landscape and archaeological sites, especially Paleolithic context, and the density of sites that he had described in a very small area, and the nature of landscape with which these Acheulean sites were associated were actually inspiring me to try to find an explanation to man-land relationships in Paleolithic times and so on. I also knew some of these open-air sites do represent palimpsest situations, and then the nature of environmental resources at the time of Acheulean occupation in some of these areas, and then what was the nature of paleo environment or paleogeographical context in which these hominin occupations took place were bothering me a lot. And I derived inspiration from this particular paper and tried to develop a model called basin model and so on. But then this actually helped me to think in terms of existence of areas of areas of highest concentration of these sites away from the channeled watercourses, and also the existence of refugia in prehistory. And these three articles, which I, in fact, when I read that review paper in um, uh, annual review of anthropology, I also responded to some of his statements in my PhD dissertation. But this is kind of work which really inspires me even today. And the last 3 or 4 days, during my interaction with some of the assistant archaeologists of the Archaeological Survey of India, I was referring to him frequently in my talk on the lower and middle Paleolithic settlements distributed across different parts of India, and why it is essential for us to go away from channel watercourses and look for intact primary context sites in the open air situations and so on. Really inspiring personality, and I know I've seen him as a very, very giant, physically as well as intellectually, and contributions from such people are immortal in Indian prehistoric literature. I pay my homage to his, self, and my thoughts are with his family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sabli sir, is there anyone else that you would like to call upon to speak?
Yeah. Anybody else?
I don't
Anybody
think so,
else
sir.
who want to talk on
It's okay.
I think
You say the department will send a condolence message to his wife. Just say.
I think nobody's here. Yeah. So with this, I thank to all the staff members, students, research workers, and the experts from different areas who gathered here for this condolence meeting. And on the behalf of Deccan College Archaeology Department, so we are sending a letter, condolence letter to his family. So with this, thank you all of you for joining this meeting. That's all. I declare the meeting is over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
for conducting.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you all.
Nice to see you.